Right or wrong, raping children?
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens?
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States?
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you.
What you're about to witness is one of the most charged moments in recent congressional history, a House committee hearing that became a flashpoint for debates about justice, accountability, and the very soul of American democracy. And at the center of it all is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a former defense attorney turned lawmaker, who came to this hearing not just with questions, but with the case. And sitting across from her, in the hot seat, was Attorney General Pam Bondi, whose written testimony claimed two goals upon taking office: ending the so-called weaponization of justice and returning the DOJ to its core mission, promises that Congresswoman Crockett methodically argued had not only gone unfulfilled, but had been actively reversed. Before launching into her testimony, Crockett used a striking rhetorical move, turning to her colleague, Congresswoman Becca Balint, to ask three blunt moral questions. Is raping children wrong? Is killing random citizens wrong? Is a sitting president enriching himself wrong? The answers were obvious, which was precisely the point. By directing those questions to a colleague rather than the witness, Crockett was making a public statement that the Attorney General, in her view, had demonstrated an unwillingness to engage with basic moral accountability. And this kind of procedural theater, while unusual, is a calculated tool legislators use to make a point on the record when they believe a witness is not cooperating in good faith, whether you agree with her approach or not. It raises an important question. When witnesses in congressional hearings decline to directly answer questions, what mechanisms exist to hold them accountable? And are those mechanisms strong enough? Crockett then shifted to a broader indictment of the DOJ under Bondi's leadership, citing what she described as the prioritization of arresting journalists, naming Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, specifically over prosecuting what she called pedophiles and creeps. And she pointed to a pattern of cases she argued were politically motivated, including grand jury rejections in cases involving Senator Kelly, Senator Slacken, dismissed cases against Tish James and James Comey, and the removal of tech apps used to track ISIS activity, painting a portrait of a Department of Justice that, in her telling, had become a political instrument, rather than an independent institution, a charge that strikes at the heart of what the DOJ is supposed to represent in a constitutional democracy. And it's worth noting that the independence of the Attorney General from executive pressure has been a recurring and deeply contested issue across administrations of both parties. Then Crockett moved into, arguably her most explosive territory, the Jeffrey Epstein files, carefully framing her statements with the qualifier that she was not accusing President Donald Trump of being a pedophile, but presenting what she described as documented facts from the Epstein files, that Trump is among the most referenced individuals in thousands of documents, that Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly introduced a young girl to Trump, and that FBI investigators' notes described Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago. Statements that, if drawn from the actual files, represent serious allegations deserving of serious scrutiny, and if not accurately characterized, represent exactly the kind of rhetorical overreach that erodes public trust in congressional oversight. This is precisely where media literacy matters most. The audience should ask, what is the original source of these claims? Have they been independently verified? And is the Congresswoman accurately representing what the documents say versus interpreting them? She closed with a sweeping series of additional allegations against the DOJ, from obstructing investigations into rogue federal agents, to seizing voter data from Fulton County, to a bribery allegation involving Tom Hallman, to what she called an unconstitutional $230 million payment being prepared for the president, before concluding that Bondi would be remembered as one of the worst attorneys general in American history, a verdict that was immediately countered by former Attorney General Eric Schmidt, who, given the floor by the chairman, suggested that Crockett herself had avoided asking the witness questions because she didn't want to confront the fact that Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, had accepted donations from Epstein after his conviction, an allegation that, if true, is equally serious and equally deserving of scrutiny. And that exchange right there, accusation met with counter-accusation, allegation deflected by allegation, is the defining dynamic of this entire hearing. A reminder that congressional oversight, at its best, is a rigorous mechanism for public accountability, and at its worst, becomes a stage for competing narratives, where the truth can get lost in the noise. So as you process everything you've just watched, ask yourself this: beyond the rhetoric, the procedural maneuvering, and the political combat, what concrete accountability actions are actually being demanded, and by whom? because that question, more than any single allegation made today, is the one that will determine whether hearings like this produce real change or simply produce content. This has been a breakdown of a moment that reflects the deep fractures in how Americans and their representatives understand justice, power, and truth in 2025. And if you found this analysis valuable, please like this video, share it with someone who wants to go beyond the headlines. Drop your thoughts in the comments below.